us for so long. It really would be wrong if we should turn away. My love is everything to you, and we need you, yes we do, every single day. Oh, mama, did you really think we'd leave you on your own? No, mama, well, we love you much too much to let you go and leave you all alone.
My mum, Agnes, or Nancy as she liked to be called, Menzies MacDonald. So much to say about my mum. She was born on 19th November 1930 and had a very, very hard childhood and upbringing. She was brought up in the slums of the Gorbals. It was a harder place than when I was staying there some 30 years later. Houses were real slums, outside toilets, damp walls, very little heating apart from the coal fire in her mother and father's living room. She had very little toys to play with, the odd doll and a broken pram with 3 wheels. Kids think their world is crumbling now when they lose the internet signal. My God, they could not survive in those dark days of a Glasgow and depression. My mum was the middle child of 5 siblings, older sisters Marion and Emma, and younger sister Ina, and younger brother David made up her family. And all the time I spoke to my mum, she never ever mentioned any uncles or aunts. In fact, no other family members other than her sister and brothers. I never thought of it then, but I find it very strange as I speak about it here. She never mentioned one other member of family, not one. Everyone only knows my mum as this old grey-haired lady, but my mum was a beautiful, thin, jet-black-haired girl, and even though the boys must have liked to look at her slim figure, it was my dad who captured her heart. My mum said the 3 main standouts in her life was meeting and marrying my dad, giving birth to me, and giving birth to my little brother John. John wasn't born till I was 10 years old, so as an only child I spent a lot of life with my mother. As my little brother was only in this earth for 6 weeks, I would spend a lot of time in her company. I loved her cooking, I loved her attention, everything that she gave to me. She only ever wanted the best for me. I probably let her down on too many numerous occasions, but she never let me down once. Anything at all I ever wanted, she would try and get it for me. She would do her utmost to get it, even if it meant her being skint or missing paying a debt. We watched so much TV together and the odd film. Her favourite actor of all time was Robert Mitchum. She loved him. Her most watched programmes were Z Cars, The Larry Marshall Show, Crown Court, Opportunity Knocks. They were the main ones. In later life she watched all the quiz shows, Catchphrase, The Price is Right, all quiz shows that she loved. We played house bingo, cards and games together. I admit, with my wicked will to win, I would try to cheat her, but I think she knew this and she let me. As I have spoke of, we moved around far too much, but our closeness always remained. The only time we were apart was the terrible time the horrible evangelical Christian fanatics from the church clouded my mind for a year and we never spoke. All down to me being used and weak wills. I regret this to this day, that I wasn't man enough to stand up to certain people. My mum always welcomed a new family member into her home and her life. Those whom I had a serious relationship with were always made to feel at home by her, and they were treated with the best of kindness. And when her grandchildren came along, she was so excited, so proud, She loved the fact that she had grandchildren and was to spoil them. Such was the love of this woman towards them. She was a fantastic granny, and with her now white hair, she was every aspect and looks and love a true grandmother. My mum didn't have many vices. She wasn't a gambler or anything, but she did love her bingo. She used to go out at night playing the Palace Bingo Hall, playing the Lawn Bingo Hall. She played a lot of bingo. When the shows came, that is the carnival, always came, she would be playing the bingo in that as well. Down at the Kelvin Hall, when the shows were there, she would take me down and she'd play the bingo as well. She really loved her bingo. She enjoyed it. It wasn't so much the winning, it was just the taking part she enjoyed. And she had many a good time. I remember one Christmas Eve, we had no money in the house, absolutely nothing. My mum and dad had got me a couple of small gifts, but nothing much. And my dad says, look, I've got a couple of pound here. Why don't you go to the bingo? My mum says, I can't. She went, just go, he says. Because there's nothing to lose. She went to the bingo that Christmas Eve and she played the bingo and she won. She won one of the top prizes. It was over £100 and that was a lot of money in the days. And I was kept in my bed, believe it or not. My dad went to meet her. I stayed in the house. My dad told me that when she went to get her, they came straight for the bingo, straight up to the banners. And at that time, the banners were open till midnight. And before midnight, they were actually throwing gifts out at silly prices. Things that were worth £5, they were given away for £1. And my dad and mum bought me so many presents, brought them home, wrapped them all through the night. When I got up in the morning, I was one of the luckiest boys in the world. And that was all through my dad just saying, go and play your bingo. It was through my mum that I got into going to car boot sales and charity shops. As when I was very young, she would trail me nearly every Saturday morning to various jumbo sales, usually held in church halls and community centres. These people who talk about recycling clothes and goods nowadays have nothing. My mum was into it first. I would be at her side as she would look through hundreds of used clothes, books, ornaments, what seemed like forever to me as I was standing around, but I would sometimes come home with a used toy that I spotted for sale, and my mum would get me it. I lost count of how many times I went to these jumbo sales, but trust me, it was a lot, and it was regular. Well, my dad and me would be at home watching the Saturday Cowboy film and BBC Two. As I got older, we spent many holidays abroad together. She loved to fly, she loved the sun. So Spain, Turkey, America, we had great holidays together. She also loved her trips to Blackpool and Ayr and loved going on bus runs that left from Carnwadrick, that done at the park, to all these destinations. Sadly, she went on a cruise with my dad. You know, the usual Holland, Spain, Belgium, etc. But she said she did not like the cruise and never enjoyed it at all. My mum had a heart of gold, probably too kind for her own good, as they were those who took advantage of her good nature, bad-mannered exes, and friends who ignored her after they left our lives, and yet she never said one bad word against them. Such was the woman that she was. Mum had her left eye removed when my dad one day gave her a handkerchief to wipe something from it, but it caused infection and the loss of her eyes. I was very young at the time. If it were today, they could have saved her eye, but in those days it was all butcher surgery. As the years went on, she lost her sight in her good eye and was blind. She became deaf and less mobile, and in her final years, Mark and Natasha were so good with staying with her and caring for her, because things must have been difficult for her and for those around her. Mum loved her chocolate. After ate dairy milk, chocolate gateau, she definitely had a sweet tooth. She loved the simple things, never anything fancy. A glass of water, or a glass of milk. Porridge in the morning, which I would make her all the time. Orange juice, just wee things that she enjoyed. My mum liked to attend the wee pensioners club in the Carnwadrick Church of Scotland, where she got something to eat, had company, and went on a few day trips. I would wheel her down sometimes in her wheelchair, as sometimes the club bus never came for her. A few times my mum really enjoyed herself. She used to enjoy going down to my Uncle Davy and Matty Jean's at New Year and spending time there, bringing in the bells and that. Had a great time. Also, the other time she enjoyed herself was when Mark and I took her to see Sidney Devine, and I gave Sidney Devine a letter before the concert, and he read it out on stage, and he put the spotlight on my mum, and everybody in the whole Pavilion Theatre, all of them clapped her. I'm not sure how much she heard of all that, but I think she had a pretty good time. The other time was at Tracy and I's wedding. She danced. She enjoyed herself. She enjoyed all leading up to it. She enjoyed getting all dressed up for it as well. And she said it was a great time. So she enjoyed that as well. Sadly, after my dad passed away, I am certain, she lost a lot of her will to live, as he was her rock, her reason for living. And as time went by, her mind was going a little bit. I'm not sure if it was dementia or no. Even then, though, as I stayed with her in the last few years in her house, we had some nice times. We used to listen to her music, Sidney Devine, the Alexandra Brothers. She loved Neil Reid's Mother of Mine, and we talked a lot. I suppose I could have spoke more and cared even more for her if it wasn't for bringing up these three small children on my own. When they weren't staying with her mum, I was dealing with them, and it was hard to deal with them and my mum at the same time. But the times that we had together was amazing. I've even got a video of her singing, and I love to look at that now and then.
Hello, I'm so I tell this from the highest hill to the soul of daffodil. I had a dream because the moss was speechless anymore.
My mum could be a very emotional person and could shed tears if something got to her or upset her. My brother John and son Robert dying really got to her so very much. Also, her sister's passing broke her heart, and of course, my dad, her rock, leaving this earth before her, broke her in pieces. I didn't tell her, but I knew that after my mum was in hospital the first time, with a long illness and life threatening, I could see in my dad's eyes, I could hear in his voice that he did not want to be near this earth without my mum. And as it came to pass, he was taken first. My mum actually took a real bad turn, so much so she was rushed to hospital, where doctors battled to save her. In fact, things were so bad that up at the hospital, my dad and I were summoned into a room, and the doctor said we would like to turn her machine off and let her go. Both my dad and I said no, no way we were going to do that. And my mum battled away, and she actually done so well. But during that time, we thought the worst, so much so my dad and I planned her funeral. Everything was sorted out, what we were going to do, but she survived that. And actually the gravestone that my mum and dad has on their graveside at the moment was originally bought for my mum, not my dad. But this woman battled on and came out and survived for a few more years. Sadly, my mother took a stroke and was admitted to hospital. Everybody sat at her bedside. She couldn't really hear us, but we tried to speak with her anyway. Sadly, she passed away a couple of weeks later after being in hospital. We had a lovely, dignified funeral. Everybody attended, well, almost everybody, and we gave her the send-off that this woman so richly deserved. Now she's at peace with my dad, and I hope for my wee brother as well. And she's in Cardonal Cemetery, and I visit whenever I can and try and keep her resting place tidy and neat, because she would have wanted that. I miss this woman with all my heart. She was an absolute rock. She was somebody I could turn to whenever I needed it. I don't have anybody like that anymore. There'll never be anybody like that anymore. My mum.